What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. So today we have another deck discussion. This time around, we're covering Gardevoir, a brand new deck. We've talked about Lugia, we talked about Arceus, but one of the most hyped decks coming into the new set was Gardevoir, and I guess maybe Miraidon, but we don't talk Miraidon. That's not a deck. Don't play that for EUIC, right? But if you go to Limitless and you go to Gardevoir Mewtwo, the number one player is actually right there beside me. So if you want to introduce yourself real quick and just say who you are.
Hi, I am Drew Kate. I've been playing this game for a really long time. I think like 14 years or something. I think it's been I think it started in like 2008, 2009. Yeah, I've just been playing for a really long time.
And he says a really long time, but also he's like won regionals. Is it just a one? Or I feel like it has to be.
Yeah, I won the 2019 Daytona regionals, and I have I have a top 4 and some top 8s as well.
Gotcha. So yeah, so he knows what he's talking about. Drew, I feel like I know for sure I had videos of you playing. I don't know if I have you. Have I had you on a discussion before?
I think we've done an interview before. It would have been for Fort Wayne, like 2015 regionals when I played. I think I played Seismitoad Giratina.
Okay.
Yeah, really long time ago. I think you had me on for an interview.
What did you win regionals with? If I can ask that question.
Gardevoir Sylveon tag team.
So you can see Drew has this like repetition with Gardevoir. Did you play Gardevoir back in 2009 as well too? Is that a thing?
I didn't actually. I played Gyarados back then.
Gyarados. Not Gengar or something cool. I had to play Gyarados. Oh well.
I played a little bit of Flygon too. Yeah, I really like the Gyarados deck.
So me and Drew have been playing for like exactly the same amount of time then, because I also started 2009. So little known fact there. But so Drew knows what he's talking about. If you go Limitless for I guess Guardian Mewtwo, not Zone Separation, Drew's like number one. It's like, yeah, congrats, sir. First of all, that's pretty cool. Like what, 480 people or something like that? That's insane.
It's like 457, I think.
That's insane.
If I remember correctly.
That's crazy. There's so many people playing online.
It was a really long tournament. I was playing till like almost 4 a.m. I was like trying to not fall asleep at my keyboard.
No shot, dude. That's props to people that do that. So obviously he knows what he's talking about. He has a lot of experience with Guardy, past and now as well, which is this new deck. But before we talk about Gardevoir, let's break down some more information about you. So what got you to the game? Was it TCG? Was it VGC? Animes? Anything else that got you into Pokemon?
So I started with the video game, and I had like collected a few of the cards, and I was like kind of interested in playing the card game for a while. But the first tournament that I went to was a VGC regional that they had in Nashville. And at the time, they did a lottery system for how you got in to play. Mm-hmm. And I showed up. I was like super excited to play. I'd like prepared my team for like months in advance. I had like gotten my friends hyped up to like go with me and play. And then the day rolls around and I don't get in through the lottery. So I just have to like sit and watch my friends play all day. And it was a real bummer. And I was like, man, when's the next tournament happening? So I like went online to like the Pokemon event locator on like the website, and saw that like there was like no more VGC tournaments happening, but there was a ton of like local like card game tournaments happening like all the time. And I was like, I just want to play more Pokemon. I'll give the card game a shot. And that's how I got started and hooked on the card game.
So have you kept up with the VGC like scene since then, or like whatever?
I've dabbled a little bit with VGC. It's definitely not like I definitely prefer the card game way more now. It's like a very different kind of strategy game. Gotcha. But I like played a little bit of like the Series 1 format for VGC this past year. Like just online. I didn't play in like any VGC regionals or anything.
Okay.
But I like kind of keep up with it. Like it's interesting, but you can't like really play like VGC and TCG at the same time, like competitively, without having to like choose one or the other uh, for regionals. So I prefer the card game.
Got
So
you. I will say this: I've only seen one other person do that, and it was Tabamon. He got his invite for VGC and TCG one year.
that's really impressive. I
Yeah.
know that there's like people who are really good at both, but it's quite a challenge.
Yeah. Especially now with like VGC like just blowing up, and there's so many people now. Like it's a
Yeah.
different ball game too. All right. So second, what is your favorite deck? And if you don't have you're like, I don't know, I don't have a favorite deck. Then what is your favorite format to play in?
Favorite deck, I think hands down has to be like the Zapdos Jirachi deck with like Rainbow Energy and like the Ultra Beast attackers
Mm-hmm.
from like I'm trying to remember like the name of the format. I think it was like right when Team Up came out.
It was like
Uh
2018, right?
it was like I think it was like early 2019. It was like the 2018-2019 season, like the end of that season. Um Yeah, the Zapdos deck is like it's so fun. It does like everything that I would ever want a deck to do. Um, and I played the deck a little bit differently than like most people at the time. Most people were playing the Zebstrika build, where you like dump your hand and then draw up with the Zebstrika. I think it's like it discards your hand and then draws four.
Yeah, that's it.
But I was playing a like a Volkner heavy build with no Zebstrika, and I would just like amass like a huge hand of like a bunch of resources instead of like trying to dump it so I could use the Zebstrika.
Mhm.
And it almost like reminiscent of like how Lost Box is now, where you're just like constantly like flower selecting and just like putting a ton of cards in your hand, and then you can have like crazy turns where you just kind of go off. And I really enjoyed playing a deck that allowed me to do that, like to have like entry combos and stuff that you need a bunch of cards for, which is I guess kind of in line with the new Gardevoir deck, where you're just drawing a bunch of cards with refinement, and then you can do crazy stuff like put a Mewtwo V-Union into play.
Just like swing out of nowhere. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember. I remember the deck. It was like just like did it play like Baby Buzzwole and like Beast
yeah. It
Ring and
played
stuff like that?
it played the Baby Buzzwole and the Nihilego as
Mm-hmm.
well. So you had like that for like the 4 prize turn and the 2 prize turn. I also played a like a 1/1 Jolteon GX line with the Energy Evolution EV,
Okay.
um, which was I thought it was really cool. Its GX attack prevented it from being like from taking damage in the next turn. So you can kind of like offset them in a way where like they couldn't attack into it, and then you could like buy a turn sometimes, and it did the same amount of damage as Zapdos. I think it did, or like it did 10 or 30 more than Zapdos.
Gotcha. So you
Um,
like take a knockout and then like you're just like basically saving a turn if you need to, kind of thing.
yeah, and they would have to like rote plus like Guzma in order to like actually hit it on that turn. And the it also had like another attack where it did like 30-30, like a jet punch type deal. And in
Okay.
some matchups, it let you skip a prize turn, which was pretty relevant into stuff like uh, the one baby
Blacephalon.
Blacephalon.
Yeah.
You could like skip their turn where they just like put all the damage counters everywhere
That's cool.
because you
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The whole format is like, can you skip that 3 or 4 price turn, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah. So it's pretty sick. It's a really
yeah,
cool format. That's fun.
I was surprised to see that like most people had like cut the card, but when it still had like the ability to skip that turn, was like the main reason why you played it. But
That's
uh,
pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Would
it
you
was a really cool like toolbox style deck, I guess.
would you say that's also like your favorite format too, or does that change?
Um, it's like Sun and Moon Era in general is like a really good format. But I also really like the Diamond and Pearl block, so I got it's kind of a toss up between those two formats, like Sun and Moon Era and Diamond and Pearl Era.
I gotcha. Okay. So enough about Pokemon. Let's talk about like you're going to regionals, right? You're trying to prepare for regionals, and you're like at the regionals, maybe in between rounds. What's a song that you listen to that gets you like pumped, slash hyped up if you need it?
So I have a pretty like diverse like music taste,
Uh-huh.
and most of the time, whatever I'm listening to is like some stuff that I like found like, and I have like 5 songs that like I'm constantly listening to on repeat until I get burnt out on it, and then I'll like swap to something else. Right now I've been like really listening to Dayglow and Good Kid. It's kind of like indie rock.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I'd probably listen to like Good Kid has some songs that have like some good energy to them. So if I was trying to get amped up, I'd probably listen to some Good Kid.
There you go. That's definitely a band I've never heard of. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
interesting.
I'm not surprised. It's kind of obscure, but yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Okay, next question. We're still talking about regionals. If you had to think of one breakfast to eat before regionals, like your perfect breakfast, what would it be? Are we skipping? Or are we actually doing like a real breakfast?
So I'm not like a really big breakfast person. I'll like try to eat stuff in the mornings, but sometimes it's a struggle. The big thing that I need to have is coffee. I'm a big coffee fiend. I need coffee like every morning to function. So and I'll like try to have like maybe like half of like a protein bar just so I have like something in my stomach going
Gotcha.
into the day. But yeah, like eating at regionals for me, I don't know why. It's kind of difficult. I don't know if it's like nerves or it's just hard to eat in the mornings. I don't know what it is, but it's always a struggle.
It's always interesting just to hear what people say, like their routines for like regionals. That's why I kind of like bring it up because everybody has like their own routine. It's like so differently depending on who you talk to. So, and then last question, talk about the nerves. Who was like the first like player slash person? Maybe you played against them, maybe you saw them that you were like nervous slash excited to meet or talk to in the Pokemon community, right? Especially like playing
So
this long, right?
yeah, so I would say that I don't really get like starstruck. So like, but if I had to think of like, I have a couple answers. The first time where I like show up at an event and I was like, whoa, it's this guy was when I saw Jay Witz at a regional back when he was making like TCG content and
Making profit and stuff.
yeah. And so I was like, I never even like it went up to say hi or anything, but I was like, whoa, it's Jay Witz because I was like a big fan of like his content. Um, the other the other time that like I was like, wow, I'm like playing against like this like notable player, was when I played against Puka for the first time.
Oh, you played against him. Okay.
Um, and that was like when I was like super obsessed with like his like I think it was called like the Top Cut blog.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was called? I was like following that a lot, so I was like, wow, I actually like get to play against Puka. That's cool. Um, but yeah, outside of that, I don't think I have like a great answer.
No, and I think that's perfect because like both of those people were like in your early like Pokemon days, right? Like
Yeah,
now it's easy to say like yeah I don't get starstruck anymore, but like back then
yeah,
I think everybody gets like quote unquote starstruck at the beginning, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean even for me like I have like there was a running joke with Jay Witz like every time I saw him I got an autograph, so I have like 10 autograph cards by Jay
That's
Witz.
awesome.
I even have like the Jay Witz level X cards and
The
stuff
J
like
Witz level X. Yeah, I remember that.
that.
That's sick.
So yeah, I'm a huge fanboy of Jay Witz, and now we're good friends. The same with Puka. Like I've me and Puka became good friends like after that. So I think it is cool to like talk about that because it's easy for people to say like I don't get starstruck, but no, everybody gets starstruck. So all right, so let's start talking about Gardevoir Mewtwo. And I guess the first question, and even I asked before we started this talk, is where did this list come from? Was this something? Do you know like the origins? Did you just like see it online? Did it come from Japan? Do you know like where it came from?
So the first time that I saw it was when I was looking at like early Japan lists, and I was kind of interested in the Gardevoir deck. I wasn't sure how like good the deck was actually going to be. But like looking at the early Japan lists, I saw some builds that incorporated the Mewtwo, and I was like, this seems like really good. Like, I think this is going to be like one of the first places that I start testing the list is the Mewtwo version. And when I was planning to play in the late night last week, I saw that there were two Mewtwo versions that had done really well in the previous late night, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to like try to throw a list together for this, and then see how it goes. So I was kind of inspired by both of the lists that had done well previously, but I kind of threw in some of like stuff that I thought would be decent. Like one of the lists I think was playing the Celebrations Mew, and one of the lists was playing the Klefki, but they weren't playing both. And I was like, I feel like both is like really good. I'm having trouble remembering like exactly.
No, that's fine, and that's fine.
My list is compared to them, but like I really ended up liking the counts that I settled on, and it ended up being good. So.
So yeah, let's start breaking those counts down. I wouldn't expect you to remember like people's lists from like last week. It's always interesting where like new lists come from, because like sometimes, like you said, people look at Japan. Some people, just come up with this. Sometimes it's a limitless tournaments. There's so much information now. I have no idea where people get it from. But like looking at the list, like you have the 4 routes, the 4 curly, and they're all the same ones. It's like the teleportation routes. Do you ever want to play like any other routes, or is like teleportation routes is the way to go? And why is it celebration? Like, what is the celebration like used for? I guess too.
So I do think that at least one of the memory skip routes is worth including now, which I've realized after the tournament. Which is turn. That one can be like really good into like Arceus, because they only have the one attack. Like anything where you like need to buy a turn, if like it's like not a great situation, or if you need to get in like 10 chip damage, which is actually super relevant when you are hitting 270 with your Gardevoir, your Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Having a turn where you're just hitting for 10 with a Ralt or a Klefki or whatever can actually it actually helps like a surprising amount of math in certain matchups. So getting like a poke in early is really nice, and it also can be like an answer to like stuff like the Alolan Vulpix that like shuts off you being able to attack into it if you have an ability, which like almost every attacker in your deck has an ability. So they have to have like the Espeon on the bench with to like be able to play around you just like memory skipping them.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like it's worth the one of to have in those like off situations where you want to take an off turn.
Yeah, and I agree with like the Arceus one. Like you just completely shut them down. You're like, okay, yeah, you can't attack. You can't do anything. And I didn't even think about the 10 damage. I forget that like most Gardevoirs in mats of like what 30s or something like that, if I remember correctly.
The 10 is like relevant into like all the 280 Pokemon, and also 310 Pokemon. It can be relevant into because you hit for 270 and then 300 is the next increment up of that.
Gotcha. All right. And so talk about Kirlia. You got the Kirlia that discard, draw cards, kind of the trade kind of effect going on. But do you ever want the water duplicates one, or do you think it's like not even worth it in the deck?
So I don't think it's worth it, because like most of the time the water duplicates one is just gonna do nothing. And like your whole goal is to like set up a bunch of Raltses anyway to evolve into the Kirlia on like the first turn. And you're playing a Kirlia that can like, I guess on like the high end, like search out 2 more Kirlias.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just play one more of the like good Kirlia, like it's like you're trading one Kirlia like that's doing nothing for one Kirlia that's always going to do its job. So it's like since the point of the water duplicates Kirlia is to get out more Kirlias, I think it's more streamlined if you just play the good Kirlia. That way you have another one of the good Kirlias out. And also with like it can like clog your bench sometimes. If you're like setting up like two rolls and then you're also using the water duplicates, then you have like five spots where you have like a Gardevoir line, and like sometimes you need like a Manaphy, like an extra slot for like your Zacian or whatever, or Greninja, where you don't want to have it just like clogging the space. And then also the only time when you can actually make use of the water duplicate Skirlia is on the second turn of the game. And the trade rolls you can make use of the second turn of the game forward for the rest of the game. So I just like not running that one.
Yeah. So, and it is something cool to point out because basically you're saying, okay, the water duplicates one, yeah, it could do its job, sure, but it's like dead weight at the end of the turn, right? After you duplicate once, you're like, who cares? It's dead weight. So I think that's something interesting to point out because I still see people still playing the water duplicates one. Sorry, do you know the name of it? I don't know the name of the attack. Do you?
It's water duplicates. I don't know.
And anybody's confused, there was a different card called Greninja. It did the same exact thing. So it's duplicate. It's water duplicates. It's psychic duplicates. I don't know. So, but yeah, let's go to the big card itself, Gardevoir. You're playing a 2-1 split. I think most of us play like a 2-2. Do you ever want the 2-2, or how do you like decide? Okay, I'm playing a 2-1 and that's it.
I think 2-2 is fine, but I also like never felt like I needed a second one. Usually you're just using the one to take like a knockout on like a V, and then you can do the rest of the prize trade with Zacian and Mewtwo if you need to. Like most games, I'm only ever attacking with it once, so that's why I only feel like I need the one. But in the instance where I do feel like I need another one, I can also like Clara it back or Miriam it back into deck if I absolutely need to.
And that's fair. And I guess for those who don't or who would want to know this answer, like if you have the Gardevoir in hand but you're not utilizing the Gardevoir, is there ever a situation where you just like keep the Curlier so you could just like trade, or are you scared like, okay, I got to get my Gardevoir out so my Curlier doesn't get knocked out?
I definitely prioritize keeping the Curlias on the board until I'm attacking with the Gardevoir. Because that way I don't want to like if I preemptively evolve it, I don't want them to like just boss it up and then just like get rid of it. Whereas if I'm holding it in my hand, I can evolve it into any of my Curlias in play. And that's like another like key part about like this list is I'm just like I want to constantly have Curlias on my board, which is another reason why I'm playing like Rescue Carrier, to just like always have refinements up and to always have the ability to evolve into a Gardevoir if I need to.
Got you. And is there any situation where you ever like attack on the Gardevoir EX, or like no, it's not attacking?
There's a couple situations where you don't hate to attack with the Gardevoir EX. Sometimes in Lost Box it's a fine attacker, because they're only ever gonna two hit that most of the time. I guess like if they're playing like if they have like Drapion double gate, they can one shot it. But that's a big ask, especially if like I judge them or Roxanne them. But yeah, it's like a nice like bulky two hitter if you like need it for that. But like most of the time, like the prize map against like non-single prize decks is gonna be like 3 or 2 attacks to win the game. That you're just like going for like a big attack each of those attacks. So yeah, I guess against like single prizers, it can be relevant. In a pinch, if you like really need to like 190 can like kill some Vs if you absolutely need to like take a 2 prize knockout. But most of the time, you're not attacking with it.
Got you. So it's definitely like a situational card, but against the Lost Block, it's like, hey, go crazy because like they're gonna 2, maybe 3 hit this guy, right? And then
it's a nice option, but not like a core game plan in a lot of matchups.
Okay. And speaking of Lost Box, Mewtwo V-Union, like is Mewtwo V-Union just for Lost Box? Like, are we sprinkling the damage everywhere, or like, is there other some kind of specialties of Mewtwo that people might not see?
So, like the main use is for Lost Box, being able to like put the damage counters on their comfies the turn that you like Roxanne them, or like kill their attacker the turn that you Roxanne them. It's like, what are they gonna do with their 2 card hand and no draw power? And then you just win from there because it's next turn. It's like, oh, I get to place more damage counters and your whole board's gone. But the place damage counters can also be relevant into like Gardevoir Mirror. You can kill 2 Curlia exactly with it. In like certain situations, that's like something you can look for. Um, that's really good if you can like pull it off at like a good time. To just like shut down their draws. The turn that you're like going for like a Roxanne or Judge play. It can also be used to just like do a big 300 at the end of the game into any matchup.
Yeah.
Which is like really nice to have like the option for. And it's like it's a threat that stays on the board from the discard pile, like once you get 4 pieces in the discard pile. So it's like it's not like an attacker that you can be like judged or Roxanne out of. Like as long as you have the Gardevoir EX on the field and you have the Mewtwo V-Union pieces in the discard pile, like it can come into play, like regardless of what's in your hand. Which is really nice. It's like having like a 6th bench spot.
Just ready
Um,
whenever.
yeah, just ready to go whenever. It's pretty sick, and they can't do anything about it, either. So
Now, is there any situation? Because like before, we saw Mewtwo V-Union like in Sanders' deck, right? Is there any
yeah,
situation where you could still do that? Like you're like, oh, I could just heal. You're never gonna win. Like GG guy. Like what are you gonna do?
so you do have like a decent amount of options for like cycling cards back in your deck. You have like the Palpad, like and Miriam, and you have like a decent amount of like shuffle cards. So like if you like get to a point in the game where you can like realize that I can just win this by just like spamming the healing and like having more cards on my deck than my opponent, then it's like a perfectly valid game plan. But it's something that you're not like focused on doing most of the time. It's like it's an option if it comes up. Like it's another line that you could play to. Like maybe even like if you need to like buy some time. I've used it before to where like I need like a turn, and so I just did the heal to like buy myself a turn, so that way I could like play Peonia to get some stuff out of my prize cards to have like a big turn next turn. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, and like you said, it's like situational, and like I think that's the cool thing about Mewtwo V-Union is like you automatically think, okay, it's for Lost Box. You can sprinkle damage counters. Sure, yeah, it's for that, but also like you have the ability of doing 300 out of nowhere. You could just like tank forever if you need to. So
Something I just thought of as well in situations where you can't use Gardevoir EX anymore if you've just gotten like path locked out of the game, where you don't have any more stadium bumps, or they've just like gotten rid of your Gardevoir in like a complete pinch. You could just use the Union Gain attack to like put energies on it and be
true.
like, deal with this 310 HP Pokemon, or next turn I can blow something up.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and it still has a good effect too, right? Can't be affected by attacks or something
yeah,
like that or
it's
whatever.
it ignores effective attacks.
Yeah. So yeah, Mewtwo is like I said, most people think of Lost Box. No, it has so many different
Yeah,
options. For attacks, you got multiple options. Even like you said, like use a V unit, get some energies powered up out of
it
nowhere.
it can create a lot of like checkmate scenarios, which I like a lot.
And next up, we got Zashi and V. Um, is it always like turn one? I want to use the ability to get energy accelerated, or maybe not all the time.
So I almost never go for the ability on it.
Okay.
Um, I see people go for it like a decent amount to get energy in play. In this build, I'm not like a huge fan of it because like you're dedicated to taking 2 turns to set up, most of the time, and having like that liability on your board early, feels really bad. when your goal is to like up trade to win the prize trade. So if you have like the Zacian sitting on your board early and like turn 2 they just like boss it and kill it, then normally like you would be behind like 1 or 2 prizes, but now you're behind like 2 or 3 prizes in the prize trade, which feels really bad. There are like certain situations where like you could go for it and against like maybe some like single prize decks if you just want to like attack with the Zacian early, like maybe against Lost Box if you can't get Comfy in the active on the first turn, you could like go for like Aurora the Sword attach, that way next turn you're like knocking out a Comfy and they too hit the Zacian. But most of the time I'm not using it, and I'm just using it late game to put down when I'm attacking with it.
Gotcha.
So I don't like having any like multi-prize liabilities on the board if I don't have to. So like the second that my Gardevoir EX comes down is like when I'm taking like a big knockout, or whenever my Zacian comes out, it's when I'm taking a big knockout. And like hopefully with Skysteel Stone, so I can like up trade in the prize race. Because the deck is gonna be playing from behind, so you need to be able to up trade. So putting more liabilities on your board just is gonna end up hurting you too much.
Yeah, so basically it's like a surprise card. Not a surprise card because people know it's coming, but like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now I attack, let's go Zashi and let's take prize cards kind of thing. Not okay, let's just sit here, get bossed up, take 2 and get knocked out, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of talked about this earlier. You talked about the Mew, the Klefki, playing the 1/1. Like how do you determine like, okay, I'm gonna swing into Mew, I'm gonna go into Klefki, especially with like no switch cards in this deck?
So everything has 1 retreat. So as long as you have like an out to Psychic Energy, which there's you have Fog Crystal and 11 Psychics, you can just retreat into. Well, I guess if you start Zacian, it's 2 retreat, which feels really bad to start Zacian.
Yeah.
But everything else has 1 retreat. So you can always like, assuming you have the energy in hand, just retreat into your preferred active Pokemon. And depending on when you want to go into Klefki or Mew is just depending on the matchup. Like Klefki's really good into Mew and Lost Box. And then the Mew is really good for just like helping you dig for like a battle VIP pass on the first turn of the game.
And would you say like if you're not set up and you don't have a VIP pass, are you always going into Mew, or are you ever just going to Klefki and just like cross your fingers because you don't want Lost Box to set up?
So into Lost Box, I'll probably always just go for like. I mean, it might depend on what my hand looks like, but I'd probably prioritize slowing down Lost Box more. Because I know that like you can always like rope around the Klefki, but they also have to have the rope. And when the Klefki's on your bench, it makes the rope worse as well. Because then you're just gonna send it back up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like their deck functions off of like running a bunch of like switch cards so that they can use other comfies. And Klefki like effectively just like makes half of their switch cards like not useful at any given point in time. Whether if it's on the bench, then the escape rope hurts them. And if it's in the active, then they're not getting use out of their other switch because they're not getting to use their abilities anyway.
Now, would you say that like, would you ever situation want 2 Klefki, or is like 1 is threatening enough? Like, okay, 1 is like good enough.
I definitely think that 1 is enough.
Okay.
And also because like I don't really think you have the bench space to like want to have 2 Klefki on your board, because you also just want to like set up your Curlias and Ralts.
Gotcha. Yeah. With 4 bench spots dedicated to Gardevoir, like, or Curlius, and I guess, yeah, you can't really waste it. Speaking of bench sitters, rating Greninja, is there ever a situation where you're like cutting the Greninja, or like drawing the cards is like busted, like you have to have it?
So I'm a big fan of Greninja because drawing cards is great, and getting energy in the discard pile is great. It does 2 things that you really want to do. So it's hard for me to want to play any other Radiant in the deck.
That's fair enough.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like I've seen like some people play like Radiant Serena for like healing, which can be pretty nice and is honestly pretty cool. But I really want to just like be able to set up and draw through my entire deck almost every game. So I feel like Greninja is more cohesive towards that plan.
Got you. Basically, you're like, okay, yeah, Greninja, I need it set up. Like, late game, like, Serena's cute, but, like, if I don't even get to the late game, like, it doesn't matter. Like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Gardevoir, I mean, it has, like, other attackers. I know, like, some lists are playing Gallade, some lists are playing, like, Cresselia. Is there any, like, of those attackers you'd ever want to put in here? Maybe, like, Shadow Rider could be spicy, too? Or, like, no, this is, like, our team.
I feel like in the Mewtwo build specifically, we have like everything that we could need as far as like attackers goes. In the like non Mewtwo build, I guess you could like maybe make room for something else, but honestly, I'm not like too big of a fan of the Cresselia. The Cresselia was played before, I think, as like a lost box answer, but or I guess just like being able to like heal some stuff off, but it was just kind of awkward to like actually pull off because you have to like attach all the energies to your Pokemon that you don't want to have energies on to get like the damage counters on them just to use the Cresselia, and yeah, it was just kind of weird, and I think the deck already has like everything that it needs.
Gotcha. Like, the deck's are consistent and, like, has enough attackers, so you don't really care, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
not fair enough. So now let's move on to the supporter cards. If you look at it, there's like one Judge, one Miriam, one Fiona, one Clara, one Serena, one Roxanne, one Boss. Would you recommend the one of like every supporter card like you have to like even new players, or is there a world you think like, okay, I could probably just play like a handful of supporter cards and not make it just one of everything?
I really like in this style of deck playing the heavy, like, or I guess not heavy, but like all the one of counts. Because like once you set up, you should be seeing like your entire deck pretty much. So you get a lot of utility out of having access to all of these like different like case scenario supporter cards. And then also having the ability like late game to like when your deck is so thin, you have like 2-4 cards in your deck at like the end of a game. You can just like Palpad to like use Palpad as like almost a Versus Seeker, because then you can immediately refinement into the supporter that you need for game.
Yeah.
Which is like an amazing feeling when you could just like reuse a supporter like that. It's great. So I really like having the heavy one of counts for sure.
Now, I know you're going to say it's situational, it depends on whatever, blah, blah, blah. But what's your favorite, like, one of supporter card in this deck?
So, honestly, this might be a surprise, but my favorite one of supporter is the Peonia.
Okay.
In this engine, and when you're playing, like, all of these, like, one of counts, and when you're seeing your whole deck to, like, pull off like your big combos, having Peonia allow you to like effectively like negate stuff being like trapped in your prize cards has been like super awesome. And you can use it at like, since like this is an attacking deck, you can use it at a point where you've already taken like 3 prizes or 2 prizes. Look at 3 of your prizes, and then you know what your 4th one in your prizes is going to be. So that way, if you take a knockout that turn, then you can grab the one card that you need. Like if it's the Sky Seal Stone, it's the Temple of Sinnoh to bump Path. Just having the ability to see every single card in your list, and not like really care if it's prized is really great in this engine, especially when you're not really needing to play your supporter for your draw engine once you get set up. So you actually have the luxury of taking the turn to use Peonia to look at your prizes. And I think even if I was like, obviously, like you would want to grab your V-Union pieces if any of your V-Union pieces were in your prizes. And that's like the main reason why you play Peonia in this build. But honestly, I think even if I was playing a list without the V-Union, I've loved having the Peonia in this deck so much that I would still keep it in the list even without the V-Union.
Do you love it enough that you would put it in other decks just so you could like have the capability of seeing your prize cards and stuff like that, or no?
I don't think so, unless it's also like a deck where you're like consistently drawing your entire deck every game.
Okay.
Without the use of supporters.
Gotcha.
It's just like a nice luxury that like this deck can afford, and now that I've like played with like being able to grab like everything that I want for my entire list, I just like I can't go back anymore.
You're spoiled now. You're like,
yeah,
I gotta have it. Yeah, I feel you on that. But yeah, it's cool because like you said, like most of your supporter cards, draw, and that's what you really like utilize them for. But with like the curly end, you're like, I don't care. I'm just gonna have fun doing other stuff, like cool stuff.
Yeah.
Weird question that has nothing to do with online. If you play Peonia in real life, are you taking notes on paper? Not? Or are you just memorizing in your head?
I usually just try to memorize it. It kind of depends on the scenario. I might like it really honestly like I've had like tournaments where I take notes on like what's in my prizes, and then I have tournaments where I'm like I'm just gonna memorize what's in my prizes. So it honestly kind of just like depends on how I feel that day.
You need one of those fancy what are those little iPad looking things?
I need an Etch-a-Sketch to write my prizes on.
That's what you need. You need the see? Drew knows. He knows that's the real note taking right there. If you can write notes on Etch-a-Sketch, you're good to go. Now we are talking about you already have one of every supporter card, but is there any other supporter card you think you might be playing, like Worker or I don't know. There's so many of them.
For sure, like Worker is like worth considering. When like people are gonna like play like heavy path counts, just running like the 2 Temple Asceno might not cut it. I've thought about like maybe going to like 3 Temple. I've seen some people go to 3 Temple, but Worker just has like the utility of like being able to like palpate it back into the deck so you get 2 uses out of it if you absolutely need to. And then the draw 3 can also be kind of nice in like a rough scenario. And I've also considered playing a 1 of Cook. It can make so when you do like your V-Union turn, if you really want to have just like a big body in the active, or even if you're attacking with like a Gardevoir EX and you just really don't want them, you want them to waste a turn where they're not going to knock it out. Like Cook can heal the attach damage off of it to put it out of range of them being able to knock it out. Or it can increase your damage on your Shining Arcana Gardevoir, because it'll allow you to attach 3 more energy, I believe. I think it's 3 more energy.
Yeah, because Cook heals 60.
Without, I think it heals 70.
Oh, 70.
But then the extra 1 like actually matters there. Because then you go to 130 HP after attaching 3 more, I believe. If I can do math right, I'm terrible at math. But
yours is better than mine.
I have a calculator open at all times whenever I'm playing online.
You'd be like, Judge, can I bring my calculator to the table, please? I can't. I'm trying to divide.
Do you know if there's like do you know if there's a rule on that? Are you allowed to have a calculator? Like,
I've
never seen anybody bring one, but like it would help me so much if I could actually bring like a calculator to tournaments.
Hey, you could bring the iPad things now. I mean, anything's free game. I feel like, right? You could just do long division on the little pad now.
Yeah.
What's 290 divided by 30? Let's figure this out real quick. I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of any other supporter cards. I mean, like you already have like 1 of everything. Like, so.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's like some like random cute 1 of that you could play, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
Gotcha. Okay. And looking at the ball search card, I mean, you have 4 Love Ball, 3 Ultra Ball, 4 VIP Pass, 3 Fog Crystal. I mean, we should be set up super easily. Is there ever a situation like I want to play Capture Roma or Great Ball because there's so many outs with Great Ball, or like, nah, these are fine. Like I'm fine with these counts.
I I really like how these counts are. I don't think that I think maybe you could like make a case for like cutting an Ultra Ball. I've seen some people do that. Um, I the 4 level ball is like a definite like you need to have it because you want to get your Curlia set up.
Mm-hmm.
And it just allows you to do that. And you just have like a lot of level ball targets in your deck. Um, Ultra Ball is just like a great like I can grab anything I want. Um, and Fog Crystal is also just like too great. I couldn't see like cutting any of those cards for a different search card.
Gotcha. Okay. Like these search cards are already good enough. Like you said, Love Ball, 90 HP less, 90 HP or less is like broken. Ultra Ball, anybody. VIP Pass, yeah, it's turn one, but after that, we're trading them away, whatever, blah, blah. So yeah, I think that's fine, like you said. Now Carrier, you already talked about the value of it. Do you ever want a second one if like people are just like being bullies to your Curlius?
Um, I feel like the one carrier is probably fine. Because you also have Clara if you need to, which is like kind of just like also a better rescue carrier. So I feel like it's the right amount of Pokemon recovery, and the rescue carrier in particular just helps you keep your Curlia ladder going, where you're always going to have like a Curlia that you can refinement with, and evolve into a Gardevoir if you need to.
Okay. Now you're gonna talk about Palpad, bust a card, turns into a VS Secret late game. You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this one card in my deck. I'm gonna draw it. Like, get out of here. So we're good on that one. The card I'm really interested in is Sky Steel Stone. I know the value of it and how it takes an additional prize cards, but is it every game? Well, that it's you can actually do it. But like in those games you actually use it. Does it happen every game, or how often are you actually pulling that combo off?
So into VMAX decks, you pretty much always want to use it because it allows you to win the game in 2 attacks. And then you have like the whole game to like build up to those 2 attacks, and you're only putting your like single prize liabilities on the board until that point, pretty much. So like I guess like I guess the turn that you so like for like an example, my prize map against Mew, um I'm going to like boss kill a Genesect with the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Um, and I'll have to play Guard EX and play that turn to do that. But so I guess that would be a liability on the board. But they would also have to like boss it, and like to kill like the Guard EX, it's like they have to use so many modifiers. It's insane. So they're probably not killing the Guard EX. And if they do, it's like they leave the other Guardy like on the board with all the energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's potentially going to be a threat. But after you do that, and ideally you want to knock out the V first so you can play around Roxanne. But after you do that, you just have the rest of the game to like set up Zacian and Sky Stone, and you're just like gonna be constantly refinementing to like draw through your deck, see all your cards. You can Peonia to like try to grab the Sky Stone out of the prizes if it's prized. You should be able to like consistently every game grab or consistently every game like pull off the Sky Steel combo against like VMAX decks because you have so much time to do your 2 attacks.
True. It's kind of like ADP was busted, so like let's put this in here too, and just like win it. Like literally, you can win in 2 attacks.
Yeah.
Like we'll go with ADP kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
It's an absolutely insane card in this deck, especially when you can hit the numbers that you can hit with it. And it's also relevant into V-Star decks as well. Sometimes if they like against Lugia, like they're gonna use single prizers.
Mm-hmm.
To like offset you. So being able to like Sky Steel Stone, knock out a Lugia V-Star, take 3 prizes. It's like, okay, well maybe like so my prize map turns into like I just need to kill one of their single prizers they're gonna throw at me, and then I can deal with like if they bench like a T-Tar or if they have to use Luminion, then that's gonna be my route to game. It just like makes one of their like prize offsets worse.
Got you. So yeah, Sky Steel Stone definitely worth its weight in gold. Make sure you play it in this deck. Outside of trainer cards, I guess technically Sky Steel Stone is not a trainer card; it's a tool card now. The only card I can think about is Rare Candy. Did you ever just want to put like a one of in here, like just be spicy, or like no, not really?
So I'm not like too big on the rare candy because like the way that I want to play the deck is I just want to have like Curly is on the board anyway, like ready to evolve. So I don't really feel like it's needed if you're like laddering the Curliest properly.
Mhm.
Um, After your like Gardevoir gets knocked out or whatever, just like grabbing them back and like start setting them back up. It hasn't ever really felt needed. And I think it's a lot better to like just like commit to having 2 turns of setup instead of like trying to do any like cute stuff early by like candying out like a Guardy. In like most case scenarios, it's not really gonna like you're not really gonna have like a super impactful attack on like the first or I guess on your second turn of the game. And if you do, it's like you have to hit a lot. It's like you got to hit like Candy Guardy, and then it's like okay, now I don't have Curly is out, and so now I'm like not drawing cards anymore.
Yeah.
So it feels bad. I think there's merit to it in the non Mewtwo version for late game specifically, because you're having to cycle more Guardies in that version because it becomes more of your main attacker in that version. So like having like 2 candies like seems like it would be like nice, just to keep the Guardies like streamlined. But in this version where it's like you're attacking with Guardy like once, maybe twice per game, so it's like getting at risk of being knocked out like once or twice. You really don't need the candies.
Okay. And I know we're hopping back and forth. Now, tool cards. Is there any other tool cards you would ever think about playing? Like maybe the new Defiance band, because you're technically always kind of like behind on price cards. Or no, I do enough damage as it is.
Yeah, I thought like Defiance Band like seems kind of cute. Being able to like push uh your one single prize Guardy over to like nice damage numbers. But I think at that point, I think I would rather play the one of Cook because it's gonna do like a lot more than that. And in every scenario, even when I'm not behind on prizes, if I really like wanted to like push damage, uh, specifically on that Gardevoir. But I think outside of that, you can hit every number that you really want to hit with the Zacian anyway. So I don't think it's like really needed.
Gotcha. And that's the only other tool card I could think about putting in here, unless you could think of any on top of your head.
I think some people are playing Jelly, but
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's also maybe more relevant in the other build that's not playing the Mewtwo. Um, but I'm also just like I don't know. I'm not too big of a fan of it.
Yeah. I mean, every time I see Jelly, I'm like, yo, you heal your Pokemon 120. Sure, you bring the Gardevoir to 130 instead of like a certain number, but like I don't know. Maybe I'm indifferent about it, but I don't know. So I guess in Lost Box it matters, right? Maybe Lost Box. That's
Yeah,
the only
like
one it matters.
yeah, like into like single prize or lost box, like it could be relevant. But I mean, we have uh V-Union plus Roxanne
Yeah,
for
good
lost
enough.
box, so we're uh, we already feel all right into that matchup.
And let's talk about stadium cards. So Tipicino, obviously, like probably the best one. The card I see that some people are playing now is like Champions Festival. Is that for this deck, or am I crazy?
So I think the Champions Festival definitely is like pretty good for Guardy. I would say that it's probably better in the more like Guardy focused attacking list and not the Mewtwo version. Um, because it allows you to hit for 300 on your Shining Arcana Guardy really easily because
Mm.
you can just like Champions Festival after you like attach on energies and attach an extra energy. Um, but I think in this build, when you're only using like your your Shining Arcana Guardy once, and like you can just like boss kill whatever V like most of the time with it, and that's like your game plan. You don't really need to reach into like 300 with it. And I feel like having the utility of the Temple of Sinnoh is really nice as well. Being able to shut off V-Guard energy for your Zacian or Mewtwo is really nice into stuff like Lugia. And also just being able to like Roxanne plus Temple, maybe stick them is a nice option to have as well. And Temple is like surprisingly relevant right now. Like it annoys Mew, it annoys Lugia, it annoys the Rapid Strike like Inteleon Urshifu deck.
Yeah. Arceus.
So yeah, Arceus as well. So like I've thought about it a lot because it's like it's hard to not have like bias on like comparing the two stadiums when one is worth like 5 cents and the other one's like $300. But I think right now like I'm definitely leaning towards the Temple of Sinnoh just because like I've gotten a lot of use out of it and I feel like it's pretty relevant right now, especially for the Mewtwo version.
Got you. No, and I like the answer too. I didn't even think about like the Champions Festival to heal the 10, so you just like do 3, like just get more weight and like swing it for attack. I didn't even think about that option at first, but obviously I haven't played Guardian as much as you have. It is interesting to think that like Champions Festival are like $100+, and it's like
I lost one of mine at Worlds, so I'm like really sad about it. I only have one right now.
It reminds me of like how people used to play Tropical Beach. I'm like, do I have to play Beach? And you're like, no, they're worth like $80. Don't pay that. And it's like, do I have to play Champions? Do I have to play Champions Festival? You're like, no, but you probably should. And like, you show over $100. Like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty insane that they have like that hard to get of a promo that's like playable, but
especially with like it being out for like I don't know 7-8 years at this point. So
yeah, and I guess like also like with the collector boom happening, definitely has driven the price of those up. So
true.
And I was just like the game is like really really affordable right now. Like Scarlet Violet cards are all like super cheap, which is like really really great. So I was like kind of sad to see like, oh no, like is this actually gonna like be like a $600+ deck because of 2 cards?
I mean,
but
Drew. I mean, you say that, but like you're the reason why like Mewtwo V-Union's like $50. Come on now.
So I didn't even have a playset of my Mewtwo V-Union before I played them in the late night. So I guess I kind of made myself suffer because of that. But I have a playset now.
There you go. Did you just shell out $50 for it or wherever it is now?
I am preemptively so I'm gonna trade for it eventually. But I'm borrowing it for right now.
There you
go. My friend Scott is lending me it for in exchange for whatever packs that I get from locals in the next like month or so, because there's a lot of local tournaments and 2 like winner boxes and stuff. So I'm gonna pay it off with those.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. The Pokédex Scott, right?
Yeah. He always is like my go-to resource for when I need cards. So shout out to him.
Yeah, that's the same thing in Memphis. Scott Arnold. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he always hooked me up with cards back in Memphis. So a different Scott, but still Scott. It's funny. But yeah, I mean, talking about the deck. I mean, we talked about the matchups already. Talked about how to beat Lost Box. Arceus, we talked about a little bit. Mew, talked about Sky Soul Stone. I'm trying to think if there's any matchups we haven't covered that you could think of that's relevant nowadays.
I'm trying to think.
Miraidon? I don't think that's a deck.
So I've actually been playing like a little bit of Miraidon in like a couple of online tournaments recently, and well, I guess first I'll say against the Regieleki VMAX version, like it's a super free matchup because they're playing a VMAX and you just Sky Soul Stone the VMAX, you win the game with 2 attacks. Against the like non-Regieleki VMAX, like the Flaffy version, which I that's the version that I've been enjoying playing. Is the non-Regieleki VMAX version with Flaffy. And that one I still think it's favored. But if they don't put down like any V stars or V Maxes, then it can be like a little bit more difficult of a prize map.
Gotcha. But I mean, still favor, like you said. I feel like it's only like quote unquote bad matchups. It's either going to be like just dead drawing, right? Get your ninja hands, whatever you want to call it now.
If you don't like the deck is insane when it sets up. If you don't reach the point where you're setting up, then it's gonna be a struggle.
True.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say because you are playing like a stage 2 deck. Like if you just like don't set up, you're like okay, I just don't whatever.
I would say like Lugia can be a little bit shaky if they flip all their coins perfectly and they just grab every piece they need and they can like do like a lot of like if they're only like liability that they put on the board like in the early to like mid game is the Lugia, like it can be a really awkward prize map for you, for sure. So that matchup can be tough. I think it just like depends on like how much they high roll.
True. It's like two high roll decks fighting each other pretty much.
Yeah. So. But everything else like feels pretty favored. I know that like people are like considering ways to kind of like counter Gardevoir with like you have like a couple of options, and like path spam can be like kind of annoying for the deck. Retreat locking is something that I've seen like a lot of people like consider and play recently, like the Dreepy or the Maywile. And if you know your opponent's like playing one of those, you just don't put Greninja down in that matchup. But I think in terms of like general lists that people are playing, it has like pretty good matchups all around the board.
Yeah, and I think the same thing too. It has like great matchups across the board. And I think the interesting thing, like you said, with like Mawa or Dreepy, if you see it and you already know you're in that situation, just like know you're going to lose, and I think just like auto scoop.
Yeah, just go to game 2 and play around at game 2. Like,
yeah. So I think that's
just what you got to do.
And I think that's what some new players will not do. They'll just like think they have an out, but like you don't have an out. Like we both know. Like we all know, like you don't have an out. Just scoop and let's go to game 2. So, and I think like pure dark decks, like maybe Darkrai, right? That might be a bad matchup, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Darkrai can be tough. I definitely still think like it's probably favored. Unless you like start like Zacian, then it's like you ought to lose.
Gotcha.
I started Zacian against one in an online tournament, and I was like, I can do nothing, and he's gonna just one shot me turn 2.
Yeah.
And I just get so behind.
But no, I mean, I can't think of anything else to really talk about Gardevoir unless there's anything you think I missed.
I think we pretty much covered most of it.
Yeah, I think so too. So
the deck's really fun. Being able to like see your whole deck every game is great. One of my like favorite styles of deck to play. So.
It's like one giant puzzle. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
So
you just have a lot of agency. It's really nice.
So well, Drew, before we go, first I want to say thank you for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this and talk about Gardevoir because. Unlike me, I haven't played the deck, so I feel stupid, and I'm like, I gotta ask people questions, and if I'm asking questions, I know people have questions, and it kind of kills two birds with one stone. People are learning, so I appreciate that. Thank you for doing this. So,
yeah, I'm happy to be on.
Yeah. And do you want to give any shouts to anything? Plug your Twitter. Do you do anything streaming or just a Twitter?
I don't really stream right now. I might start streaming again soon, but I'll just not worry about that for now. I'll just plug my Twitter. At Own Tempo 745. It's all one word.
Gotcha. And I'll link down below to his Twitter too as well if you want to do that. And I mean, if his Twitch is on there, of course, go ahead and follow his Twitch if you want to, right? He might not stream anytime soon, but it is an
Yeah,
option.
who knows when I'll stream?
Yeah. Just stream one of your late nights again, and then you're good to go. That's all you can do.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, guys, but hope you learned something today. I know I did, because like I said before, I don't know anything about Gardevoir, but Drew definitely did. Being the number one Garden Mewtwo player, right? Forever, probably. Second out of 400 and whatever people.
Online, I guess. Whoever pops off with it this weekend at EUIC will be the...
We'll see. Drew might maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe you'll hit a golden ticket and you'll be this later this weekend. Probably not. But yeah, guys, hope you learned something new. I had fun. Drew, once again, thank you for doing this. And yeah, guys, see you tomorrow. All right.